Hello, welcome to Ray-ality TV. I'm Raymond Bakari. Today I'm joined by Paul Pence, who is one of the two Republicans running for Lieutenant Governor in Rhode Island. Mr. Pence, how are you today?
Doing great.
It's good to have you on the show. Starting off with my first question here, you're currently running in the Republican primary in the 2022 Lieutenant Gubernatorial election. Can you tell those watching a little bit about yourself and why you want to be the next Lieutenant Governor?
Okay. Starting very basically, I was an Army brat, and Army brats all grow up wanting one thing that they just can't get anywhere, and that is a home. And Rhode Island gave me a home. And as I developed my skills and that sort of thing, I realized that my home wasn't really what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be better. I wanted Rhode Island to be what it can be, rather than a place where things are not working right. And I'm an engineer. I got to fix things, and I want to fix my home. So, starting really basic, very basic. I want to make the place that I live, the place that I love, so much better than it is, the place it can be.
This is your second time running for the office. The last time, excuse me, the last time you ran was in 2018, garnering 29% of the vote versus the incumbent at the time, Dan McKee. Do you see any differences from that campaign compared to this one?
Well, the very first time through, I was clearly an outsider. I was somebody who came in without any history, without any record. It was difficult getting acceptance by the party, just like anybody else would if they are running for a statewide office with no background in politics. I still am an outsider, but they know who I am now. They see me at meetings. They don't say, "Who's this person?" So I'm very happy to believe that I'm going to be getting an awful lot more support from the established part of the Republican Party than I did in the past. And I have proven myself as somebody who works tirelessly to get the job done. And in this case, to run for office and make sure that things work.
What specific key issues do you plan to focus on in the campaign?
Well, the key issues have always been the same thing. Rhode Island government is ineffective. It is inefficient. It's definitely not customer friendly. The entire process of government is overly complicated. It's unpleasant to work with. We all have experiences with different parts of the government, but the easiest example to give for everybody is the DMV, the registry. How awful the experience is when you try to work with the registry. And I talk to people and they say, well, I go to AAA and they handle it without a problem. Well, you're bypassing the mess the system is. Now, the registry isn't the biggest problem in the state. It's just something that we've all touched bases on. There's a million things in the state, some of them are so much more critical, like our emergency management systems, our health and human services. Those things really affect people, have severe consequences when they're done badly. And those are things that I believe that the access of the lieutenant governor has and the administrative freedom that the office has gives the opportunity to get in and knock on doors and say, look, you've got a problem. Let me help you fix it. And that's what I do. I've been a consultant, an internal consultant, a change agent for the companies I've worked my entire career, finding problems that they don't realize exist or they think is unsolvable and helping them solve those problems. So I think I may have drifted a tiny bit from your original question, but the problem is the government doesn't function right, and nobody has the skill sets to make the government function right.
Education is a big issue heading into 2022. It's also multi-layered. For example, the material in school curriculums has become a hot button issue. I know this is one of them that you have on your campaign policy website's policy section. The right has shed light on the teaching of critical race theory in K through 12 schools. I know you're opposed to CRT. Can you explain for those watching why you're opposed to the teaching of CRT in K through 12 schools?
Well, CRT, if I start talking about a piece of it, we may wander too far, but I'll try to keep it as straightforward as possible. CRT is critical race theory. In very simple terms, it is acknowledging that there are historical problems that have existed in this country, and that those historical problems may have influenced the building of structures over the years. So highways, for instance, are placed in a place where the rich and powerful want the highways to be, not where the less powerful want them to be. So over the years, our systems may have been built to benefit the people who already have the benefits of society. Now, if you address critical race theory simply as an intellectual exercise, like whether or not a criminal is truly responsible for his own actions, or if a society is the ill, you have an interesting discussion that should be handled at the college level. But when critical race theory is pushed down to elementary school kids and middle school kids, and they're taught every single day that your race, your station in life is completely unearned, and you are an oppressor of others simply because of your race, that causes immeasurable harm, not only to the child who's told that he's the oppressor, but to the children who are told that they will never succeed because of the oppressors. So critical race theory is a huge hot button issue right now. Parents are getting involved. One side says, stop indoctrinating our children, telling them they're bad people. And the other people say, well, what's wrong with teaching history? Well, when you teach history again and again and again and again and again, it may be true, but it becomes abusive after a while. To tell a child, you're short, you're short, you're short, you're short, you're short every single day, again and again and again, that's got to have an effect on a child. And we have a history. Rhode Island was settled by heretics and outlaws and outcasts. And if we think about that every single day and obsess on it, and make everybody think that we are bad people because our ancestors were bad people, we do not make any change in the system. We just split and divide people and cause resentment and cause harm. That's not the way to handle critical race theory. Keep it as an intellectual exercise at the college level. Don't indoctrinate our children. Now, education is much more than critical race theory. Education is the path out of poverty. Challenge is poverty makes education harder. I've lost your picture. Okay, good. Poverty makes education harder. The impoverished, if you're working 2 full-time jobs just to keep from starving, you're not going to spend a whole lot of time helping your children through school. If you live in situations where you cannot help your children along, you're not going to be able to make sure they get a good education and achieve more than you did in your life. So poverty causes poor education. Poor education causes more poverty. We strive to correct that mostly with money. We pay our school teachers more and more. We push for better and better schools, and politicians only understand money. They think in terms of, let's push money at this problem. Let's move more money over here than over there. And it loses the real goal of the problem, is how do we give the best possible education to children? And I am a free enterprise, free market type person. I believe that if parents could pick and choose which schools their children could go to, the better schools, the better administrations would have the children that want to be educated. The parents will support that, and the schools that are not serving the children well will tend to get fewer and fewer students, and they will feel the pain of not delivering good education. But there's so many things to do to correct the educational systems in Rhode Island. Money is a big part of it. If we can't finance secure, safe, comfortable buildings for our children to learn in, they're not going to learn. So we've got to address a lot of things, but education is primary to ever stop the cycle of poor education causes poverty, poverty causes poor education.
It sounded like toward the end of the answer that you're speaking in favor of proposals of educational reform like charter school expansions and school choice. Do I have that correct?
School choice, definitely. Charter school is an interesting subject. Charter schools are not always a financial advantage that is advertised. You need to address these things based on reality, not expectation. Charter schools are still run by the cities with public money. The biggest difference between charter schools and the charter schools, the way we run them, and public schools is that charter schools can set their own work rules for the teachers, which means they are able to have non-union teachers. That has some advantages when it comes to labor negotiations, that sort of thing, but that doesn't necessarily make charter schools better educational results. The better educational results from charter schools happen in districts where the charter schools are also allowed to pick and choose which children come, rather than a lottery system. Well, if you take the cream of the crop from the public schools and put them in the charter schools, of course, they will perform better. So you can't just say charter schools are universally good or charter schools are universally bad. No, you need to, as far as charter schools, make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing the way they're supposed to be doing it. And that is focusing on getting educational achievement in the students rather than simply save the town some money. Now, private schools have the advantage of private schools have highly involved parents. Because they have highly involved parents, they tend to have better performing children. But you don't generally have highly involved parents when you have poverty, where the parents are struggling just to make ends meet. So the advantages and disadvantages of charter schools, private schools, and school choice are generally overstated in both directions by the proponents and the opponents. And they have to be addressed in as logically and rationally as possible, with real numbers based on the real goals.
Housing is another multifaceted and complex issue that our current lieutenant governor has been trying to address alongside the governor. Say you and a Republican or elected governor, or even a governor you work well with, what would be your strategy to address Rhode Island's housing crisis?
Okay, housing, really interesting. Rhode Island has, if there's a buildable lot in Rhode Island, there's a very good chance it's already been built. We have huge parts of Rhode Island that is wilderness, but you can't build in a swamp. We call them wetlands. They're protected by the DEM, but still, you can't build there. It just isn't practical, isn't feasible, and it has environmental concerns. So our housing is limited by the space available. It's also limited by another thing, and that is the laws and regulations and zoning rules and things like that limit what can be built, where it can be built. If you wanted housing that is affordable enough that the people who are working 2 jobs can pay the rent or one job and take care of their family and watch for their kids' education, you've got to be able to change the zoning rules. If you have zoning rules that say that you can't build a 4-story apartment building, you can only build a 2-story apartment building, but you can't even build an apartment building because you can't put so many people inside this lot, no one's ever going to build these things. If you're going to change the housing situation, you've got to change the zoning rules. There are logical, rational ways of changing it rather than subsidizing housing. We get into the affordable housing stuff here, which isn't affordable. It isn't affordable to low-income people. It's set at 120% or 140% on where you are living of the median median income, which isn't nearly enough to cover the housing that we need to accommodate. If we took a rational look at housing and changed the zoning regulations to permit in certain areas where it fits the nature of the community, you could build 4-story brownstone style housing in the east side of Providence, and it would fit naturally into the area, and people would be able to live there without having to have a huge number of cars in their front yard, or they'd be able to walk to the businesses that they patronize. In our communities, let's say someplace like Lincoln, we've got a village culture. The old village structure, very often back in the old days, you'd have the shop, and above the shop you'd have the home, and right next door you'd have another shop and then a home above that shop. There are communities throughout the country that are building what's called 2x3 housing, where it's got 2 layers of concrete construction and then 3 layers of wood construction. This housing allows you to build businesses, and above that, residences. You can't build that anywhere in Rhode Island because of zoning regulations, because of parking regulations, of street setbacks. We'll ask the government for help. Well, the government has only been doing one thing. It's been pushing money to try to get these things subsidized, rather than setting up rational laws. Or we need this zoning change, we need this zoning change, we need this zoning change. And that would encourage the building of these things. By passing out money, you're trying to get developers to build stuff that they don't want to build. So they say, well, thank you for the money, we'll build it now. But if you change the laws, they can build things that they can make a profit on, and then there'd be no problem at all getting these built.
There are a couple of issues that this lieutenant governor and the last one made their priorities to talk about during their time in that office. One of them is helping out small businesses. How would you use your position as lieutenant governor to help out the small businesses in our state?
Well, there are a very long list of things the lieutenant governor is actually responsible for. It's a misunderstanding to believe that the lieutenant governor has no job. But one of those things on that list is to chair the Small Business Advisory Council. So he does have a true hand in the process of advising and assisting the development of small business. He also assigns 3 members to that council. Small business is the business of Rhode Island. We have over 60,000 small businesses in Rhode Island. And when you do things to cripple small businesses, to make life more difficult for them, they don't develop, they don't grow, they don't expand. No small businesses join them. So the challenges to small businesses of Rhode Island is regulations. Now, taxes are a pain. Taxes are set by the towns, and there's a way to eliminate the things like the real property tax, the thing where if I have a small business and I have a desk, I pay a tax on that desk every single year just for owning a desk. If I own a sign, that sign has a value. I've got to pay for that sign every single year. People think that that tax is a tax set by the state. It's actually set by the municipalities. And the different municipalities set it according to how they want to balance their tax load. So one of the lowest taxes is Little Compton. The highest is Central Falls. Businesses don't like that. It's a huge amount of paperwork. It's very awkward. What do you do? Well, you can't eliminate, well, you can eliminate it in one town or another town or another town. You could pass a state law eliminating it. But every time a discussion comes up about eliminating the car tax or eliminating the business real property tax, it comes to, well, how is my town going to balance its budget without this? and without raising taxes on everybody else. And then they look for ways of getting money from the state and then arguing over who gets what piece of the pie. And that just gets lost in politics rather than solving the problem. Solving the problem would be to give each municipality the option to permanently eliminate let's say the real property tax. And then once it's permanently eliminated, have a one-time increase in the allowable real estate tax. And then once a certain threshold is reached, like 2/3 or 3/4 of the municipalities eliminate their tax, then eliminate it statewide. You can do the same kind of thing with our car tax that we face, where each municipality sets their own car tax. You eliminate it one at a time, allow them to rebalance their budgets accordingly, and then once enough people get it, enough towns get it eliminated, you eliminate it completely. But that tax is only one thing. We've got regulation after regulation after regulation. So just something as simple as a pest control operator has to have 2 pest control licenses, not one for killing rats and one for killing squirrels that get into your attic. It's got to be 2 separate licenses. We live in a world where politicians do things to show that they're involved, they're engaged, and they do that by passing laws and regulations. And those things stack up. We need to simplify, get rid of them. Get rid of the unnecessary ones, simplify the ones that are absolutely necessary, make life easier so our businesses can thrive.
There were calls in the past and even currently to close down the office. Bob Healy famously ran campaigns on that idea. Even some Republicans nowadays are in favor of ideas like, say, for example, using the $1 million a year budget for an inspector general's office. Where do you stand on this issue?
Well, the inspector general's office is a great idea. I'm not sure it's workable because it would still be prone to the political processes. If it was an outside agency that still had regulatory access, then maybe you could find some way of making it work. In fact, there are some people who, and I'm among them, who believe that the lieutenant governor office can function as a inspector general. But the challenge is still prone to political forces. So would a lieutenant governor be harsh on the current governor if they're of the same party? If the lieutenant governor is of a different party and wants to be harsh on that governor, will the governor put roadblocks in the way that would keep the inspector general from doing his job of finding problems? So yes, we do need somebody to function as inspector general, but the way of doing that is going to be incredibly interesting to make happen. I see the role of the lieutenant governor very similar, being able to go in, knock on a door and say, hey, show me how you do your work. How does this work? Why do you do that? Can we eliminate that and still get this job done? What is our goals? How well are we doing to those goals? There are just so many places where in every organization where things can be simplified, can be streamlined, where it can be made more customer friendly. And that is what I would like to use the role of lieutenant governor for. However, we have had people who have treated the role of lieutenant governor as a hammock. I'm at the end of my career. I'm just going to lay down, sleep, and wake me up if the governor dies. If that's what we do with the role of lieutenant governor, it's an absolute waste of our money. We don't need somebody to be sitting there just waiting for the governor to die. But there are actual tasks, actual responsibilities for the role of lieutenant governor. The role of lieutenant governor, if he's doing his job right, he'd be in the governor's business 24/7. He'd be able to take over if necessary. In addition, he has to fill 32 different council slots 3 of those council slots he would be chairing himself, and 3 of them he'd be serving on as members. And that's councils like the Intergovernmental Council and councils on homelessness, things like that, that really do need proper oversight and administrative control. So there's plenty of work for a real lieutenant governor. We just don't need somebody to see it as a place to retire while still collecting a paycheck.
My last 2 questions are non-political topics. I like to ask these toward the end of the interview to take a step away from politics. Do you have any hobbies?
Well, I write. I write fiction, travel articles, a lot of photography. Train 2 dogs. They're Norwegian elk hounds, very loud and strong dogs that need an awful lot of attention. On top of that, the things that everybody likes, like the hiking and making snowmen. So yeah, I've got hobbies, plenty of things to keep me busy in my time to recharge. Let's see. So that was okay. I think I answered that. And what was the other part of that question, or is there another one?
It was only a one part question. My final question is one that I ask everyone here on the show to keep tradition, and that is, in your opinion, what do you think Rhode Island is best known for?
Rhode Island is not best known for being Rhode Island, unfortunately. You talk to anybody outside of Rhode Island, and they have no idea where Rhode Island is. Half of them believe that we're part of New Jersey. The other half of them think we're part of New York State. Those people who do know Rhode Island probably know us most for our history. We have an amazing history. That history, I mentioned earlier, we're a state made of outcasts. Our original settlers were heretics. We've had rum runners and smugglers, and unfortunately, even slave traders in our history. We've had people who worked with the local Native Americans and actually purchased the land that we sit on. So I live on the Shawanout purchase, which was purchased by Roger Williams, where much of the land in the rest of the country is settled through conquest. Ours was settled through treaty, through actual purchase. The history here continues on to the Gilded Age, the development of the Industrial Revolution. The American Revolution has a big part of what happened here in Rhode Island. Rhode Island is just an amazing place. If you only look at the history, you see all that. And throughout our history, we've had wave after wave of settlers from various countries. So we've got a hugely diverse ethnic mix here of Italians and French and Hmong, and everybody else from every country has come here. And it's an amazing place. And I'm very proud to make Rhode Island my home because of things like that.
It absolutely is. Mr. Pence, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure of mine. It's been a pleasure of mine having you on.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for watching this episode of Ray-ality TV. Please click the subscribe button down below on this channel, on the Anchor TV Rick channel, as long as the post notification bell icon to the right of it. If you want to read the political profiles version of this, prior and future ones, that can all be seen on anchorweb.org. I'm Raymond Bakari. I'll see you on the next episode.